Hi, everybody. Welcome to Edmonton Neighborhoods United candidate forum for Papastew. We have two candidates with us today. We have Mark Hillman of the PACE group, and we have Josh Doyle of Better Edmonton. Unfortunately, we did extend an invite to Michael Jantz, but for reasons we're not completely clear, he's not agreeing to participate in any sort of forum until September 22nd. Not sure. I don't feel that's a good approach, but that's not my decision. In fact, I did hear a rumor that he was busy looking for a place to open a bike shop. I don't know if you guys have heard that same rumor, but again, I have no idea. So anyway, on that note, let's get started. We have some preset questions for our two candidates. So I'll go ahead and start the first question, and then we'll turn to Josh Doyle first to answer, and then Mark Hillman afterwards, and we'll just go through that process. So on that note, the first question is just tell us a bit about yourself and why you've decided to run as a candidate for Papastew.
So thank you, Greg, for setting this up and inviting me, and for Mark for being here as well. I am a second-class power engineer, and I'm a proud Edmontonian. I love this city, and I want it to succeed. These last 5 years have been tough on all of us, and COVID was hard on my family particularly. I lost my younger brother to fentanyl. I see so much pain and fear in people's eyes, and there is incredible division. And I want to make a difference in this world. There's an opportunity for me to unite and to lead people to something better. The future is unknown, and in that unknown lies hope. And I have hope that we can come together and rebuild trust. I'm going to work as hard as I can to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, my background's in finance, budgeting, planning, all that fun stuff. But really, what I want to do is I want to kind of bring that experience to city council. Um, and really why I decided to run. If I tell people there's not really any one specific reason. There's many. It was kind of a series of things that added up. And I think everyone can kind of relate to a lot of those. It'd be your value for your taxes, concerns about safety and security, and more recently this zoning bylaw, the concerns around that. So everything that's kind of come together has kind of thought made me thinking of what the first experience I ever had with thinking politically was a saying that my grandfather used to have. My late grandfather would always say, if you don't vote, don't complain. And I got really tired of complaining, so I decided to do something about it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Mark. The second question, and this will go to Mark first. You're both part of a municipal party. What are the benefits for voters, and does that mean you will have to vote along party lines?
Thanks for the question, Glee. Um, yeah, so parties are new to Edmontonians. They're new to the municipalities in general, but I think the core reasoning for them is to try, for us anyway, at Pace, is to bring transparency. We're all part of the same mindset of what direction we want to take the city. There's no requirement in Pace to vote along party lines. We have a strict policy of ward first, city second, and party third, and we stick by that. And we've all kind of committed to that. That was actually one of the main things that we agreed on when we first met. With Pace, we meet together every week. We discuss policy. We get training. We bring in former city councilors. We brought in public speakers, people to help us get ready for this job, so that when we go in, we can go in like hit and running, and go in day one and hit everything we need to. Um, so really, and one thing people know about us is we specifically don't have a mayoral candidate. That was a choice we made by design. Um, we prefer to try and win council, and the logic behind that is we don't want to be anchored to one person. one person's ideals of what the city is going to be and one person to guide us and what our party is going to look like. And that kind of goes back to our commitment to our individual wards. So we are committed to our individual wards, but yes, we are a party so that we can be united. And I think to say that there are candidates running the incumbent, Michael Jantz, is claiming independence, but I would challenge anyone to look into that and see where that really is.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. Over to you, Josh.
Thank you. So, as Mark said, it does provide transparency. You know what you're going to get because it is easy to see the explicitly stated mission and goals, if you will, of the party. I don't know if Mark's being transparent about their ability to find a mayoral candidate. I think that they did try and failed, but Better Edmonton, Party of Better Edmonton, is a team. And as a teammate, I will work with my fellow councillors and the mayor for the things that my constituents need. The value this structure provides is that unlike the current city council, which has been marked by an inability to get anything done, we as a team can build it better. We can create safer streets. We can use your tax dollars responsibly. This, however, does not mean that I will vote in lockstep with my colleagues, as my first priority is Ward Papastew. And I think the fact that this party is made up of people from all to our strength. It's a reflection of the people in this ward. We are diverse and we have to work together. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josh. On to the next question. LRT. Ridership is down, operating costs are not sustainable, safety is a real concern, and yet there's plans to expand the LRT network. What are your thoughts? Starting with you, Josh.
So I believe in the importance of strengthening our transit system. And as we grow as a city, we make sure that all forms of transportation are available to everyone who has to get around and wants the option. In a time where we are going through an affordability crisis, transit is a key piece of that. However, we also need to make sure that people feel safe on transit, and I support the actions of City Council to increase transit officers around transit stations, as well as more dedicated EPS officers to stations and to neighborhoods. When it comes to operating costs, we need to look at how the city deals with their contract process because it's unacceptable that the city bears the burden of a private company not meeting their obligations. I know the value of meeting obligations, and I commit to reviewing the procurement process at the city for all LRT projects going forward and taking a step back to reassess the value proposition of further expansion. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. So you're absolutely right. Ridership in LRT is down. We're still expanding the network. In this current council, including some members who are currently seeking re-election, many members seeking re-election have caused the problem. Right now, if we look at the expense rate on the LRT, the costs rising. I'm a finance guy. I've looked at the numbers. Less than 10 years ago, the cost recovery rate on the LRT was about 50%. The LRT was never going to make money. It's a service. We all know that. But 50% isn't bad. Today, it is less than 25%. So most of that change has been from this council. This council's current policies, their inability to keep contractors accountable, and their willingness to spend our money. And yes, we have to spend money to expand. Well, I get that. But we need to do it in a smart and responsible way. We're going over budget on pretty much everything, and that's unacceptable. We have councillors who've been on council for multiple terms, and they're somehow claiming that this is not their fault. I don't buy it. So we need to have a fresh council, a fresh start, and we need to really get a council that's going to look at the finances and look at the details and not just give Edmontonians platitudes.
Thanks, Mark.
So yeah,
Oh,
but and sorry, just on the safety aspect. Sorry, I was just giving a pause there. Um, I think I can agree that we need to add more EPS officers. Right now, we have a policy where peace officers aren't allowed to really do anything. They observe and report. That's wrong. This current council has done that. We need to be able to have officers on the LRT to enforce the law and be able to dissuade anyone who wants to do anything. Violent crime in this city is rising, and it's mostly condensed on the LRT. It is mostly LRT related and it's mostly drug related. Those are two things that we can focus on and we need to address. And we need to work in collaboration with Edmonton Police Services, not in opposition to them.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Next question. Majority of citizens feel that a lot of council members are just following their own agenda, not listening to their concerns. Um, what would you do to build the trust back and hold yourself accountable? Mark?
This is incredibly important. It's in the name of PACE. We're the principled, accountable coalition for Edmonton. So accountability is huge for us. I think the first step is showing up. We need to be able to show up for Edmontonians when they need us. We can't be going around saying, hey, I'm going to show up to this or missing form debates like our current counselor is. This is the fourth debate that I've been invited to that Michael Jantz has refused to show up. That's telling. We can't be missing critical votes that Edmontonians expect us to be at. Like we have, well, a mayoral candidate right now who didn't show up to a critical vote that he championed. That's not acceptable. So we need the first step, and I know that sounds like the bare minimum, is show up. Actually show up when Edmontonians need us to, and listen to their concerns and be held accountable to them.
Josh?
Thanks. So yeah, working hard is, I'm used to it. Don't worry about that. But my plan is I'm going to create a community advisory committee where key individuals will be nominated from the community to represent nonprofits, social service groups, youth arts, seniors organizations, community leagues, etc. So listening sessions will be held quarterly, and it's going to give citizens a seat at the table to share their lived experiences. I want to build trust through these community meetings, and as well as making sure that I'm in the community as much as possible after the election, talking to folks, whether it's going to be at, community league meetings or events, ensuring that every constituent gets a response, and just know that they can reach out to me anytime. I'm going to give them the understanding and the trust that I'm here. They can talk to me. I will be there. I will be someone that you can rely on. That's a commitment. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. On to the next question, which is very close to my heart. And part of the reason why I'm part of Edmonton Neighborhoods United is infill. So you both have door knocked a lot. I know this is an issue that comes up along with a few other important issues, but clearly council, and we can look at their track record here. The majority of them voted for this new bylaw. They made certain concessions over some urban planning committee meetings and council meetings to amend the bylaw to some degree. But quite frankly, it didn't seem like much, and it seemed like a minor concession during an election year. So my question for both of you is, what's the plan? What's your action plan to fix this, make people feel more comfortable, primarily about living in mature neighborhoods, but also across the city? Because now we're seeing this happening in other communities that weren't expecting it, like Windermere. So yeah, over to you, Josh, first to talk about infill and your plan.
Okay, well, yeah, hey, this is the big one. This is what has taken up a lot of time and resources and energy figuring out the problems and the solutions. And yeah, you talked about council and how they just kind of make these mild concessions and amendments. I feel this is going to be similar to for me to like when a new uh, um, kind of like manager comes into a professional hockey team, right? They have no emotional attachment to any of the previous decisions, right? So they can just get rid of whatever and start kind of fresh without, getting rid of the whole team, right? They know where the problems are and they're just going to fix them. And so to that, I say it's easy to know what isn't working and it's difficult to predict what will work. And so I'm going to fix the problems that we know. It doesn't make sense to abolish it and start new. You're just going to create new problems that you couldn't predict again. And so, saying that, I'm going to end blanket zoning, in which one zoning approach applies to almost every neighborhood inside the Henday. I'm going to install something called a custom family friendly zoning. And this is going to be delivered by community led planning. So this is going to be kind of like a mature neighborhood overlay. It's going to be an overlay that is specific to certain neighborhoods, say Garneau or Greenfield and Duggan, because they're more similar. There will be a few of them. And this is where you're going to get provisions for things like parking, waste management, landscaping, architectural and design considerations. These community-led planning efforts to build these smaller overlays will place all of these provisions within them. And they'll be slightly different depending on where you live. So for all of them, though, I will say I'm going to limit infill on mid-blocks in the mature neighborhoods to a maximum of 4 units. That's the solid middle ground that removes that CMHC mortgage from the federal government. Um, and that's less than the old bylaw. The old bylaw could allow 6 on a mid block. So 4 is the lowest it's ever been. So I also stand for discouraging rezoning applications for higher density in mature neighborhoods, except on nodes and corridors along arterial roads or within 200 meters of a transit station. And this can be revised when creating the overlay for that area. Take, say, again, a Garneau. It's within a node, but there are historical buildings within that node. Carve out that node. Make it so that that historical area is an exception. When you make the rules, that's something you can do, and that's something I will do. So I also stand for the introduction of a tree protection bylaw, and these are common in large cities and require developers to apply before removing large trees on private property, justify the removal, and provide compensation equivalent to the value of the removed trees. I'm not going to create big new things, especially with regards to, say the tree protection bylaw. Other cities have ideas, they have bylaws, they're not intellectual property. We can use them. We can take from what others are using that works and use them for ourselves. We can ask other people in other cities. That's collaboration. It's not, an island. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So with everything I just said, I'm going to try my best to find what works. We know what doesn't work. I'm going to fix those problems surgically. And then moving forward, we'll have collaborative efforts to tweak it. We have something that is a spirit. There is the bylaw, the policy, and the plan. There was a spirit when these were created to achieve something. It's not working, so I'm going to fix the parts that don't work. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think with this bylaw, we need to repeal it full sale. And why I say that is there's so many flaws. Fundamentally, this thing is caused far too many issues. This current council has voted for it, has encouraged this, including if we look at the voting record, going back to accountability. Let's look at the voting record of, well, Tim Cartmel, for example. He's voted for this thing. That's a problem. So what I feel we need to do is we need to repeal this bylaw and go back to zoning, make a new approach where we're zoning based on individual neighborhood needs, not individual neighborhoods, but different districts and different zoning. Blanket zoning needs to go away. I agree with Josh on that. I spoke with, and where this decision comes from is an informed place. We, as a team at Pace, met with Build Edmonton, and we actually met with the design person who architected this original draft of this bylaw. And we spoke with her for hours on the flaws that are here. And before anyone gets their pitchforks out on her, she was telling us several things that were insightful. One, how our meeting with them and Better Edmonton was drastically different because there seems to be some disunity on this topic within Better Edmonton. So we are the only ones who want to make this actually happen. And I don't deny Josh wants to get rid of blanket zoning, but I will question if his whole team wants to. But several things, there's two things that stood out to me that she said that were fundamentally problematic. The blanket nature of it, which I agree, and the removal of community collaboration. That wasn't intended. And this council has purposely removed those two requirements and has resulted in the lack of parking, infrastructure concerns, the amount of people from EPCOR I've spoken to, because again, I want to know. I am informed here. Going forward and asking, it's like, hey, can this transformer take that? What's the capacity here? What's the water capacity of, if you add 8 units for where there was 1 unit, dryers take up more energy, the 8 dryers take up more energy than one, and those are a huge heat sink. So things like that are not being considered. So we need to get rid of blanket zoning. Our policy here at Pace is that we need to, well, I was the first one in Pace to advocate for it, that we need to get rid of it. We need to go back to a community approach, speaking with individual community members. And like I was speaking last night with a bunch of people from Edmonton Neighborhood United about all the issues that are surrounding this bylaw. And what we need to replace it with is something that actually listens to the community and what they need.
Okay. Mark. On to the next question. Property taxes. We've seen a dramatic rise in this last 4-year term of Michael Jantz and other councillors to the extent of about 21.5% on average. Clearly, some people are seeing way more than that, but on average, that's substantial. So I think I want to hear what's your plan to address property taxes and equally the 4.7 billion dollars in debt.
So this is a question I joke with my team all the time. I almost need to have someone beside me to stab me in the side when I start talking about taxes. Fundamentally comes down to an issue of our city spending. There's a concept called a fiscal gap, and it's the gap between our city's revenue that we're bringing in and the amount of spending that we do. Our spending and expenditure is far outpacing our ability to grow our revenue, and that has a direct impact on our property taxes. Property taxes are just going to keep going up and up and up. But not only that, the problem gets worse. Not only is there, in an effort to not have to increase property taxes to ludicrous levels, which I'm not defending current council because this is just them doubling down, is the insane amount of debt we've had to take out. Roughly 20 years ago, our debt to the amount of property tax of yours that went to paying off debt was about 0.5%. That's not too bad. Today it's 11. It's the second highest thing on the line items. There is Edmonton Police Service at 14. Then you have debt repayment. That's just interest at 11%. And then right behind that is LRT maintenance, or not just LRT, transit throughout the whole city. We're spending more on servicing our debt than we are on transit for the entire city. If that doesn't tell us there's a problem with this city council spending, I don't know what does. We need to fix it. We need to address it, and we need to say, hey, step one, stop the bleeding. I want to say I'm going to lower property taxes, and I adamantly do want to. But this first step is to stop the bleed. Property taxes don't work on a percentage basis. It's a funny calculation called a mill rate that is intentionally complicated. But if we just maintain our property taxes at the current rates, then the real effect on people's property taxes actually comes down over time slowly because mill rates don't keep up with based on percentage. So by just stopping the bleeding, we get an inadvertent tax decrease. Now, on the other side of it, if we want to just keep our taxes effectively the same, we have to increase property taxes by 1 or 2% roughly. Nowhere near that justifies what this current council has done. So, first step, stop the bleeding, and then what we need, then we can actually assess what we can do about bringing property taxes down.
Thank you, Mark. Josh?
Thank you. Yeah, so Mark's right about a lot of that. I'll put it as simply as I can. The benchmark for all kind of financial equivalency is inflation, really. So if you are doing better than inflation, you're doing better than most. If you're doing worse than inflation, you're doing worse than most. And 11% for debt servicing is worse. Our property taxes, the increase is worse. So Edmonton has obviously, yeah, a spending problem that is worse than the benchmark of inflation and others. So the commitment that Better Edmonton has made is to do a full-scale review of all city spending, including a blue ribbon panel that will do a deep dive into this spending. So we need to review what our wants are and what our needs are. We also need to tie spending to outcomes, to publicly share what these outcomes are and how each and every dollar we spend as a city improves our way of life. The city needs to focus on snow removal, on maintenance of facilities and public land, our crumbling back alleys, police and fire. We can't continue to spend money on things that are provincial responsibilities. And as your next councillor, I will demonstrate the same fiscal accountability that I use in my own life. Pay for what you can afford and prioritize. I manage my own portfolio. I own and manage my own house. I'm running my campaign. The proof is in the pudding. I care about fiscal management, and that comes to making hard decisions with where you need to cut and what you need to focus on. And that's what I intend to do. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Josh. So one of our last questions here is just, have we missed anything here? Is there something on your platform that we haven't talked about today that you'd like to share with us? Josh?
Sure. This ward is full of arts and culture. It has some of the best restaurants and breweries in the city, and I'm committed to supporting these areas by making parking easier and working with Edmonton Arts Council to make sure the city is supporting this vibrant part of Edmonton. So when it comes to arts and culture, a little goes a long way, right? Their piece of the pie is minuscule, but if they lose some, then we lose that fabric that we need as a society. So this extends to my commitment to working with the police and social services to strengthen those relationships as well, so we can make sure that people going to White Avenue feel safe and secure. I just think that sometimes the arts and culture gets left to the wayside when we're all talking about, the money and the taxes and everything, but that's the stuff that makes life worth living. That's our culture, that's our society, that's what we go home to and want to express with others. So I just think it's so important, and I want to make a point to that. Another point I want to bring to is kind of an anecdote. I was talking to a woman the other day. She opened an ice cream shop, and she just was saying how tough it is. It took 7 months to get her business license. She wanted to put in an oven to make the cones, but the city said to comply, you have to buy a $40,000 exhaust fan. And the city put that into place, that bylaw, in 2021 during COVID because they were worried about air turnover. And to me, that is just such a knee-jerk reaction and something that is so punitive and inhibitive to businesses that really doesn't serve a purpose anymore. So that's something that is easily fixed. That's a small thing that can be changed quickly, that has a huge benefit to encourage businesses to flourish. That's how I want to govern, finding small things that we know are broken and fixing them. I'm not going to create big, huge schemes or plans of which who knows what will happen. I'm going to identify areas of weakness and fix them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. So really, any other major issues that I want to look at is getting back to our core services. We have willingly gone outside of our mandate on so many different things. We're spending money on things that go outside the city's mandate, and it is not helping our budget in any way, shape, or form. Like kind of going back to how much debt we're in, it's growing, it's ballooning. And if we keep going down this route, we're going to hit something called our debt service limit. And that's a huge issue for me. And most people don't even know what that term is. They hear it like, what the heck is this? A debt service limit is the legal limit that a city is allowed to take out in debt. Provinces don't have it, federal governments don't have it, municipalities do. We can't hit that limit. The city's own report last year said that they are on track to hit it by 2028 if we don't stop all additional capital expenditure projects, like all these pet projects that are going on. We didn't, and we're barreling towards it. So by 2028, we're on track to hit our debt service limit. And just for context of what happens when we hit that, when we hit our debt service limit, we lose control of our own budgeting. The province gets to decide. We can't use emergency like funds for things. We can't take out debt. That comes down to we have to get permission until our finances get back in order. That's a huge problem, and I'm terrified of that. I want to do everything I can to make sure we avoid hitting that limit. I want to make sure that we're focusing on core services. And here's the thing, we can. I've read the capital expenditure budget. I've read the operating budget. The problem is less on the operating side. While I do have issues with the operating budget, it's mostly on the capital expenditure, which is the extra spending the city council's been making. It's all these pet projects, like the different rec centers that are being built that no one asked for, an additional LRT line before the first one has been completed. Like, I'm not against LRTs, but why can't we finish one and then start the other? And not only that, why can't we look at the second one or look at the first one and learn and not make the same mistakes on the second one? That's just insane to me. We have construction sites where cranes, which are incredibly expensive piece of equipment, are just sitting there and they're rented by the day because we can't do project management properly. We can't schedule things. We're always behind. So now we're costing the city money. The old adage of time is money. And we're seeing that. You see that when you're driving everywhere throughout the city. So I want to give Edmontonians real value for their taxes and really make some fiscal responsibility back to the city.
Thanks, Mark. So, in conclusion, Mark, why should people vote for you?
Appreciate that. Because I show up, I do the work, and I know what I'm talking about. It really comes down to that. I could go on and on about my background, how I've spent. Um, I make budgets, financing. It's the most applicable job you can probably pick for this. I create financial reports for for boards of directors, which in this case would be city council. So in this case, administration would never be able to pull one over my eyes. I have balanced budgets. I have a Tuesday for me is finding $8 million that we're missing due to an accounting error or due to some corruption within a company. I've worked with billion-dollar companies. I know I'm quite young and quite privileged to have been doing that, but my job has been to balance budgets and to get things in financial order. That's what I want to bring to the city. And I do it in a way that doesn't compromise the core function of the entity that I've worked with. I've worked with nonprofits. I've worked with for-profit companies. I've worked with financial institutions. I've worked with governments on some levels, and lots of construction companies. So really, I'm qualified. I can do the job. And I really want the chance to prove to Edmontonians that we can have a fiscally responsible council that doesn't compromise core services and listens to them and their needs.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Josh.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah. So on one side, you have Mr. Jans, who is a bit of an ideologue who represents a select few and doesn't have a lot of experience when it comes to the practical nature of reality. On the other side, you have Mr. Hillman, who is a bit singular in his knowledge. Although he may be, well versed in that area, there is so much more to a city. It is where we live and where we play, where we work. So, me, I'm a rock. I'm stable ground. You can rest assured knowing that you can trust me. You can tell me your thoughts, your concerns, your feelings, your ideas. I will bring them to City Hall and I will amplify them. I will be your megaphone. I will be the conduit through which you will have a seat at the table. Every single one of you. That's my commitment as your next city councilor, and that's what I do well. Thanks.
Can I make a counter there, if that's okay, Greg? I want to be respectful. Is that okay, Greg?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I think it's a little naive to be saying that I'm one-sided in my information. I actually know what I'm talking about. I do the homework. I do the research. I look into what needs to be done, and I actually read things. Like we can look at examples of Mr. Doyle if he wants to take an attack at me. Like, did you even read where you can legally put signs? Like, look around in the ward. I'm going to do the homework that needs to be done for everything that I need to address in this city. So painting me as someone who only knows one aspect is a false narrative. I've worked with so many different companies and so many different industries that I feel that I am the most qualified to represent this ward.
Yeah, so Mark, I didn't say otherwise that you weren't good at what you do. I said you were singular in that aspect and that you knew it well.
And to do the work to know what areas I need to. My wife works in long-term care. Healthcare is something that's incredibly important to me. Addictions and recovery, like, is incredibly important to me, and I'm sure it's incredibly important to you as well, Josh. My wife's someone who actually works to help make sure that we are able to get those who are addicted, those who have illnesses, real jobs, and back into society so that they don't end up in horrible situations. So yes, finance is so important to me. And it is something that I'm going to highlight to and scream from the top of the roof because the city is barreling towards a financial crisis. And if we don't address it, we won't be able to address anything else realistically. So I want to care about the finances of the city so that we can address those concerns, so we can care about those most vulnerable, so we can care about the arts, so we can care about our infrastructure and core services.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, gentlemen, thank you both so much for participating. I think it's going to give people an opportunity to hear you uh, point blank if they haven't seen you at the doors. I know you're both very active in the ward, so there's a good chance that people have an opportunity, if they haven't already, to meet you both. But if they don't, I encourage them to email you both. I believe your information's available online if they have any questions that weren't answered in this forum. So yeah, I appreciate the time you've taken. And to the viewers, I think my ask is that you please inform yourself about the candidates running in this ward, and please vote. I think that is your democratic right, and you should make an informed decision about doing that. So, on that basis, thank you both, and have yourself a wonderful day.
Thanks, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Likewise,
Appreciate the time.
take care,
See ya.
guys.
Thanks again, Greg.